One of the most overlooked traits in today's NBA is humility. Being comfortable being the number 2 option on a team it's tough for guys as good as these players are. But if you look back at history and some of the better teams in NBA history, every team has a guy that is okay at that number 2 role. They do what it takes to support the star and be great themselves. If you look at Scottie Pippen, you look at Kevin Durant for the Golden State Warriors, you look at Kyrie Irving for the Cavaliers. Those are a couple recent names, with Scottie Pippen being not so recent, but that always happens. There's guys that are really great who know that they're not the number 1 option on a team when it comes down to crunch time or whatever the case may be. I'm going to go into some guys that I think are going to be great for this role in the future. Maybe not to the level of Kyrie Irving or Scottie Pippen, but I'm going to talk about some guys that I think are going to be great at that position regardless. Number 1, DeJounte Murray. First and foremost, this man is bought in on the Spurs and Coach Pop's mentality as an organization, a franchise. I mean, that's the biggest foundation of being successful with the Spurs, is buying in, and we're kind of seeing that right now with Kawhi. Doesn't seem like he buys into what they're preaching anymore, and now we might see Kawhi on a different team. DeJounte Murray, on the other hand, seems all in at the time being. Because of this, he utilizes his high basketball IQ to commit few turnovers and run the Spurs offense. This guy isn't necessarily the highest scorer night to night. He's not going to give you probably 20, 25. That's just not what he does. He makes up for that with great handles and extremely high effort. That is so important, especially on the defensive end of the ball for a young player. Guy that some people weren't super high on, other than the fact that he's an extreme athlete. He's starting to turn into an all-around good player in the NBA, and that's a super big deal. That's the Spurs, though, for you. By snatching up lots of defensive rebounds, he can push the tempo offensively, create easy buckets for his team in transition, and just himself in general. Sometimes he'll take a nice little easy layup. It is what it is. His reach is also a great attribute. He capitalizes on it by playing incredible defense. He makes some passes that other players just wouldn't be able to make, especially at his age. It's really impressive, some of the things this guy can do. Why I think he's going to be a co-star. Murray just isn't flashy or dominant enough to separate himself from the Spurs' tried and true methods. On top of that, he's a low-volume scorer. He focuses more on helping teammates and playing incredible defense. Those things don't necessarily make you a star in the NBA. That's kind of one of the bigger questions with Kawhi early on in his career. He was so good, not necessarily the most dynamic scorer, but he always played great defense. And then he really built that offensive game up, became probably the best two-way player in the NBA. That's Kawhi for you, but I'm not so sure if DeJounte Murray is ever going to be that high volume of a scorer. Prove me wrong, though. I love him. Great player. Number 2, Gary Harris. This guy is an incredible two-way player. Just like DeJounte Murray, he's a little bit better on the offensive side of the ball, definitely more consistent. He just continues to get better and better year in and year out. Had a pretty terrible rookie season, and then he really turned it around. It's a really impressive feat that this guy managed to do. Some people thought he was going to be trash after that first year, and he managed to prove everybody wrong and turned himself into a really above average NBA player who's only getting better with time. He's also an exceptional transition defender, just like DeJounte Murray is. He creates some easy buckets through steals at the top of the key, all around the perimeter. Harris is always willing to make the extra passes to more shooting-heavy players on his squad. And on top of that, this guy has tons of composure. Just go look at that three-pointer he had that iced the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just one of the better shots of this entire NBA season that he hit. Great moment. Why I think this guy's a co-star. I think this guy plays with two players that are just more spotlight dominant than himself in Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Jokic, for the sense that he's kind of a freakish player where he's one of the best passers on the court and he's also 7 feet tall. And then you got Jamal Murray, who's kind of like the energetic, loudmouth player on the Denver Nuggets, who also likes that big shot. Gary Harris also just seems comfortable being that guy. Sometimes he's number 2, sometimes he's the 3rd. Sometimes, look at that moment where he hit the 3, right? We'll point back to that again. That was a number 1 star moment, right? Like I said, none of these guys are out of the range of being stars on any given team. I just think they fit better in that number 2 option. Kelly Oubre Jr., number 3. What was the biggest mistake the Wizards made in the 2016-2017 playoffs? I'll give you a second to think about it. Was it talking trash about LeBron and the Cavaliers? No, because they didn't play him. What could it be? I think it's probably the fact that they only played Kelly Oubre for 1 minute in Game 7 against the Celtics. This guy is so long and athletic that scoring comes easy for him. Even though he doesn't have a lot of big scoring nights, he's definitely capable of it. He's so athletic, like I said, that he can just score at will. On top of that, he's a consistently good defender who can guard and switch up to 4 positions on the court. That's such an invaluable asset in today's switching league. Look at the Houston Rockets. They continue to dominate people by switching all the time. If you have a guy like Kelly Oubre who's 6'7", 6'8", that long, fast, agile with that lateral quickness, this guy can guard anybody on the court, maybe other than a 7-footer. So just put him out there and let him guard whoever he can. Why I think he's a co-star. One way or another, this guy will be playing with one or both of John Wall and Bradley Beal, both of which are established NBA stars for a long time to come. I don't think he has the ceiling of Bradley Beal or John Wall for that matter. But like I said, I think he fits really nice into that number 2 spot on the team. If they were to get rid of one of those guys, I'm putting him even ahead of Otto Porter just for the fact that he's such a good defender and he has all the tools to be great on offense too. Number 4, Stanley Johnson. This is where I'm getting a little controversial. Some people might disagree with this. I love Stanley Johnson. The Pistons' future may be in question with the mega awful, terrible, laughable contract of the stand-up comic Blake Griffin. The funniest joke he's ever told was that contract. Come at me. But in my opinion, Stanley Johnson is a co-star in the making. With his great size and freak athleticism, Stanley can guard and play nearly any position on the court. Same thing I said with Kelly Oubre, that's such an important facet of today's game. Also, though, when this guy is running the offense, he's also shown, a great ability with the ball. He's got a great handle. He's also shown a good propensity to be creative when given the chance with the ball running the offense. Why he's a co-star? Clearly, Johnson's highest potential is as a defender because he can be spotty with the ball shooting, but with proper time and effort, he can develop into a great two-way player in the NBA. I don't ever think this guy's offense is going to be lights out. I do think he can be above average on the offensive side of the ball, though. If he really utilizes his tools properly, I think he relies a little too much on his athleticism sometimes, and he tries to do things that other people can't do, and then he just makes a silly turnover, or he just misses an easy bucket that he could have just passed the ball. Sometimes he just makes mistakes offensively, is what I'm trying to say. If he can, kind of iron those things out, this guy is great. Last but not least, my guy, Justice Winslow. I got to give this guy credit where credit is due. He's not been the greatest of all 5 of these players. There's definitely players on this list that have been better than him, but I think this guy has infinite potential as a basketball player. Let me get into it. I'm going to do a little dramatic reading of a line before I get too far, though. Too many Urkels on your team. That's why your Winslow. That doesn't really describe the Heat or Justice Winslow. I would more describe it as there's too many specialized players on the Heat, and it limits what Justice Winslow is capable of doing. Because Justice Winslow is so long and athletic, and he's actually fairly refined on both sides of the ball, he has all the tools, right? He's a solid shooter on top of that, albeit streaky. But he's got great passing vision. He's a great rebounder. He can do anything on the court when he's really locked in and focused. Defensively, this guy, when he's really in the game and he's checked in all the way, he can guard nearly anyone in the NBA. That's how good I've seen him play sometimes. But it doesn't happen all the time. And on top of that, his shooting is so streaky that you can't necessarily count on him offensively to win you a game. So it limits it, right? But I think with some more refinement, he's still only like 21 years old. Give this guy some more time, and this guy is going to be a legitimately great NBA player. Why I think he's a co-star, I kind of already touched on it, but he's a little too inconsistent on offense for me to say he's going to be a star. I actually do think this guy has potential to be that guy, be the number 1 on any given team, but I'm going to keep him in the number 2 range, right? Because of that inconsistency. And sometimes he's a little too reliant upon teammates to make shots for him, or make shots for themselves for that matter. He gets stuck offensively He's got to make a pass that he doesn't necessarily want to make. Sometimes he'll commit the turnover. It happens, but like I said, that's offense for you. For this guy, just a little inconsistent. Anyway, guys, that's all 5 of the guys I wanted to talk about. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you like this style of video, a little bit more like a list, I talk more in depth about players individually, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll do some more. Anyway, guys, this has been your boy Pete over at Fusion Corp. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace.